I'm loved rotten. All of my life, I've heard my dad's story. How that when he was 13 years old, he ran away from home because he wanted to be a rock star. He'd started playing the guitar when he was about 4. So by the time he was 13, he was good enough to get the job. And at way too young of an age, he left home. And he went to go live with these men in this band, and part of the time they had this big white house they lived in, and this big house that was somewhere in between Dayton and Cincinnati. And then sometimes they just lived in their van, going from bar to bar to play their gigs. And these guys taught my dad new, innovative things on the guitar, but they also taught him how to do drugs. And it wasn't long before he was a $100 a day heroin addict. And in order to pay for his habit, he became a drug dealer. And all of my life, I've heard the stories of how he would sit with a gun on his side of the table, while the other guy had a gun on his side of the table. So they couldn't cheat one another in the drug deal. And I've heard the stories of how he would have to sleep with a gun under his pillow every night just to stay safe. Most of the men that my dad ran around with are dead today. They died violent deaths. They lived a destructive lifestyle. But somehow, through it all, God protected my dad's life. And when I was 5 years old, my dad gave his heart to Jesus. Yeah. God drastically redeemed my dad's life. And if you were to meet him today, you would have no idea of what past he came from. And even though I've heard the stories of how my dad used to be the meanest man in town, I don't know that man. I know a preacher who raised me in church and raised me to love Jesus and to sing for him. I'm so thankful. And when God redeemed my dad's life, he wanted to tell everyone. And he struggled for the words because he thought in order to tell people about Jesus, he needed to know more about theology. And when you grow up with a rock band, you don't know much about theology. So he got down on his knees and he prayed and he asked God, how do I tell them? And God spoke to his heart and said, just tell them what I did for you. We read of so many miracles in the Bible, but we have lived the greatest of them all. The redemption of a life. And that's the story we want to tell. I wasn't there by the shores of Galilee when Jesus touched those blinded eyes and made them see, and